Graph comes from the Greek verb graphein, to write. Thus, a biography is a written account of someone's life, CBIO, a discography is a written list of recordings on disc, records, or CDs, and a filmography is a list of motion pictures. But lots of uses of graph and graphy don't mean literally writing, as an autograph or paragraph, but instead something more like recording, as in photography, seismograph, or graph itself. Calligraphy, the art of producing beautiful handwriting. Calligraphy can be seen today in event invitations, logo designs, and stone inscriptions. Kalli is a Greek root meaning beautiful, and beautiful in the case of calligraphy means artistic, stylized, and elegant. Calligraphy has existed in many cultures, including Indian, Persian, and Islamic cultures. Arabic puts a particularly high value on beautiful script, and in East Asia calligraphy has long been considered a major art. Calligraphers in the West use pens with wide nibs, with which they produce strokes of widely differing width within a single letter. Hagiography. 1. Biography of saints. 2. Biography that idealizes or idolizes. According to the new biography, which should really be called a hagiography, the former prime minister doesn't seem to have done anything small-minded or improper in his entire life. For those able to read, reading stories of the lives of the saints was a popular pastime for centuries, and books collecting short saints' biographies were bestsellers. These often included terrifically colorful stories about slaying dragons, magically traveling through space, etc., that were perhaps a bit too good to be strictly true, and after finding God, not one of them ever did a single thing that wasn't saintly, and some of them may not have actually existed. Still today, hagiographic accounts of the lives of politicians and pop culture stars are being written, though there now seems to be a bigger audience for biographies that seek out the not-so-wholesome secrets of the person's life, sometimes even making up a few of them. Choreography. 1. The art of composing and arranging dances and of representing them in symbolic notation. 2. The movements by dancers in a performance. The reviews praised the show for its eye-catching choreography, calling it the best element of the whole musical. In ancient Greece, a chorea was a circular dance accompanied by a singing chorus. But the actual notating of dances, by means of symbols, didn't begin until the 17th or 18th century, when ballet developed into a complex art form in France. The choreographer of a major ballet, which might run to an hour or more, will always record his or her work in notation, though choreographing a 5-minute segment for a TV talent show usually doesn't require any record at all. Lithograph, a picture made by printing from a flat surface, such as a smooth stone, prepared so that the ink will only stick to the design that will be printed. To make a lithograph, the artist first draws an image, in reverse, on a fine-grained limestone or aluminum plate. Lithos is Greek for stone, and a stone surface has traditionally been involved in lithography, though a metal plate may take its place today. The lithographic process was invented around 1796 and soon became the main method of printing books and newspapers. Artists use lithography to produce prints, works intended to be sold in many copies, and art lithographs sometimes resemble older types of prints, including etchings, engravings, and woodcuts. Pablo Picasso, Marc Chagall, Joan Moreau, and M. C. Escher are among the many artists who have used lithography to produce important original works. Today, lithographic printing accounts for over 40% of all printing, packaging, and publishing. Art comes from the Latin word for skill. This reminds us that, until a few centuries ago, almost no one made a strong distinction between skilled craftsmanship and what we would now call art. And the word art itself could also mean simply cleverness. The result is that this root appears in some words where we might not expect it. Artful. 1. Skillful. 2. Wily, crafty, sly. It was an artful solution, each side was pleased with the agreement, but it was the lawyer himself who stood to make the most money off of it. A writer may produce an artful piece of prose, one that's clearly and elegantly written. The same writer might also make an artful argument, one that cleverly leaves out certain details and plays up others so as to make a stronger case. In the first instance, the prose is well crafted, in the second, the argument might instead be called crafty. But even though both uses are correct, most of us still use artful somewhat differently from artistic. Artifact, a usually simple object made by human workmanship, such as a tool or ornament, that represents a culture or a stage in a culture's development. Through the artifacts found by archaeologists, we now know a considerable amount about how the early Anasazi people of the Southwest lived. One of the things that make humans unique is their ability to make and use tools, and ever since the first rough stone axes began to appear about 700,000 years ago, human cultures have left behind artifacts from which we've tried to draw a picture of their everyday life. The roots of artifact mean basically something made with skill. Thus, a mere stone that was used for pounding isn't an artifact, since it wasn't shaped by humans for its purpose, unlike a ram's horn that was polished and given a brass mouthpiece and was blown as part of a religious ritual. Artifice. 1. Clever skill. 2. A clever trick. By his cunning and artifice, Iago convinces Othello that Desdemona has been unfaithful. Artifice can be a tricky word to use. It combines the same roots as artifact, so it's sometimes seen in descriptions of craftsmanship. The artifice that went into this jewelry can still astound us. The chef had used all his artifice to disguise the nature of the meat. But it can also be used for many situations that don't involve physical materials. They had gotten around the rules by a clever artifice. The artifice of the plot is ingenious. Like its adjective, artificial, artifice isn't necessarily either positive nor negative. But both words can make us slightly uncomfortable if we like to think of simplicity and naturalness as important values.